Good afternoon. Happy Wednesday. What a Wednesday it is. I had to turn the news off. How about you? I thought it's time to turn the news off and we're going to have a floral respite. We need a little beauty in our life. So thank you for joining me for an hour to escape, to find beauty, to find community, to find love. We all need that, so this is your respite. We can go back to the news later, but right now, let's all escape. We'll have a flower escape. And I'm so glad you joined me. We're gonna have fun today. Look at all the flowers. So many gorgeous things. I had a whole lot of fun. Maybe too much fun, but you know what? It's okay. The Pantone Color of the Year announcement kind of surprised me because they came out with the two colors again. And I just like, no, not again. They did that years ago with the pink and blue. And now we have ultimate gray and illumination. But to be perfectly honest, that color palette is so flower friendly. It's going to be a lot of fun to work with. And those of you that know me know that my very favorite flower in the whole world is the daffodil. And is there such a more fabulous illumination yellow out there? I think not. So it's almost like this color palette is for me. So my first design that I'm going to work with, I'm going to use the daffodils because I love them. But I wanted to just point out we have so many other things also in that yellow palette. Everything came from florabundance.com. They're based in California. We've got some California roses. We've got some import roses. They bring in flowers from all over the world so that you can have anything you want, any time of the year, almost. It's almost everything under the sun. But when you go to their website, you can shop by color. So that's what I did. I clicked yellow, and then I looked at all the things that came up with yellow. And not everything is illumination yellow, but the Catalina rose, definitely illumination yellow. That was one of my first choices. It's a South American variety. Crispedia, or billy balls, bright yellow. We use those so much. It's nothing new, but it fits the palette. Freesia, cymbidiums, and taking a little bit of liberty and going to a softer yellow for a little bit of interest with stock. So you can see how flower friendly this all turns out. Maybe to a bolder, almost orange yellow with the ranunculus. Pretty bad. I don't think you can do wrong with this color harmony. So my first question to each of you in the tribe, each of you that have joined us here on this Wednesday afternoon, each of you that are giving us an hour to build community and to fill your life with beauty. So question number one, what do you think of the gray and yellow palette? Yay or nay? What's your answer? Yay, I love the gray and yellow. Nay, I hate the gray and yellow. Go ahead and type it in there. Add your tulip so we know you're with us. In the studio with me, we have teacher Marisa and teacher Carolyn. Many of you students have been so busy. They have been grading like mad and evaluating. Their fingers have been getting hot and smoking on the keyboard because they're going so fast. But they escaped away to make sure they could join us for live. Then online, Caledonia and Susie are working with you, greeting you, making sure that we see your questions, making sure that we all connect. So thanks Susie, thanks Caledonia, thanks Carolyn, thanks Marisa, because we're going to time for a party. It's going to be so much fun talking about the Pantone Color of the Year. Plural, with an S. What do you got there, Marisa?
Well, you're going to have to convince Annie because she's saying that she's not sure that she's going to be liking these two colors. So,
well, we'll have to see how it goes because it's interesting. Gray and yellow was super popular, I want to say maybe 7 or 8 years ago. We do a floral styling tabletop class which we rewrite constantly so that it's current and up to date. And I want to say like maybe 8 years ago, one of the segments in it was gray and yellow. And it had even that same pattern that they're using in some of the Pantone promotional products. And I just had to laugh. I was like, oh my gosh, is it circling back? Or were we ahead? Or what was that all about? Kind of amazing. So it'll be interesting. It may grow on you. So if you like daffodils, it's a good thing. If you don't like daffodils, maybe not. So Annie, we'll just see if we can convince you. For the first container, I decided to pick the Ultimate Gray. And one of the things I like about Ultimate Gray is that it gives you that urban, gritty city feel, which is a nice contrast to that soft, flowing, flowery look. So when I do this gritty concrete slab and I add in daffodils, that contrast creates beauty to build upon. I've put a liner in. It's not a waterproof container. I'm using floral foam because I want these to stand up straight. And I'm going to cheat and add in a green trick dianthus as a ground cover. Now these also come from Floral Abundance, but it's not in that gray and yellow palette. So, but I wanted something that was my ground cover. And here in Oregon, where we get so much rain, in fact, it's absolutely pouring this exact moment, we have an abundance of moss. And so having a moss ground cover is just so perfect. And in the winter months and early spring, it's abundantly green and lush and soft because it's so fresh and wet. And so just tucking this in, oh my, you know, I like that. I would put this on my desk and just pet it so that if I got frustrated, I'd reach over and touch, making sure I had a little meditation moment. Maybe we all need to buy some green trick dianthus and put it nearby to give us a little tactile respite. So while I start pulling things together, what's going on out there?
Well, we're getting some votes on the Pantone color of the year, and so far it's unanimous yays, and I will tell you it's my favorite. I love yellow and gray.
So it works for you. Wonderful. I love it. I don't remember who it was. One of our tribe was feeling right on trend and very excited because their bathroom, they just had updated, and it's all yellows and grays in their bathroom, and they were like, I was ahead of Pantone. And I thought, how perfect is that? And it would be lovely in a bathroom because it would give you that bright, happy feel.
Over here in Facebook land, I don't know if she pronounces her name Marisa or Marissa, but she says, you know, she feels that the yellow and gray combo has been done before. But I'm getting more yeses. However, I like just the yellow. It's sort of okay. There's potential. I have mixed feelings.
Okay. It is one of those things that is a love-hate because yellow is so bright, and when it comes to clothing, many people don't really look good in yellow because our faces and skin tone doesn't work well. I used to work with a woman, not with her, she worked in a business beside me, Suzanne, who was a very, very, very fair-skinned blonde, very Scandinavian. She was stunning in yellow. And so I would try to copy her and think, oh, I could do yellow. And I'm like, I can't do yellow. It just did not work for me. So I think it's a little tricky in that respect. First kind of a tricky lesson we'll have here. You'll notice that the daffodils are in a vase all by themselves. Those of you that have been to flower school know that daffodils secrete a sap that kills other flowers. So when you cut it and it starts to drain that sap out, you can see sort of well, you probably can't see it on camera, but it's there. It actually will shorten the life of other flowers. So you want to totally hydrate it separate for a minimum of 2 hours. And then you can design with it and merge. Then the problem is, how do you get it down into the foam? Because sometimes the stem is a little bit soft. What I like to do, because it also helps it to drink well, take a chenille, a pipe cleaner, just place it right up the bottom. And what that will do is it'll wick the water up, plus it helps to add to the stability so that it'll go into the foam cleanly without a problem. And then I can cut that off. Go ahead and do that with the rest of these. Now, if you've been to flower school, you already know the daffodil story, so this just gives you a little more information. I know some of you are coming on Monday. Next Monday, it's here already. I can't believe it. 9 of you are coming to join us in the classroom on Monday. We're ready for you. We have everything spaced way far apart so that you have your own work environment that doesn't put you too close to anybody else, keeping our COVID safety. We don't want anyone to be compromised in any way. And you'll love the space. It's such a creative spot. And we have beautiful wood beamed ceilings that just go way high up in the air. And the beauty of that is when it rains, which it will rain. I can promise you while you are here, it will rain. So make sure you have an umbrella or a rain hat. I brought my hat today because I knew I would be in the rain. But come prepared, because when we're in the warehouse, which is set up as the classroom, and it starts raining, it's the most delightful sound just beating down on the roof. You're gonna love it. Too grand. Now I'm just nestling my fingers into the dianthus, separating out the laterals so I can then squeeze in my daffodils. And you can see I'm feeding them right down into the foam. Now I did 3, grouping them together like they would grow. And you can see they're leaning a little bit to the right. So then I come back with another, group it, going the opposite a little bit so that I don't look like I'm leaning. So that's why I didn't do them all at the same time. This gives me the ability to separate it out a little bit. There we go. And other questions?
Okay, I'm going to combine these 2 questions. Sharon wants to know how the Pantone color of the year is chosen. And then Will wants to know, how much does the Pantone color actually influence the floral industry?
You know, excellent questions. How do they choose it? How does it influence? There is a group of experts that gather, probably virtually at this point, and they analyze what they think is going to be the color of the year 1 year out, 3 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out. I mean, they really speculate forward. And they analyze what's happening culturally, politically, economically, worldwide. Because all of those things influence our choices on color. So they analyze. They do their final meeting, and they determine this is the color that we are going to say is color of the year. And then they announce it in early December. Then it really goes into effect in January for the year. Now, sometimes it's spot on and it makes a huge impact in our industry. Other times, it's not such of an impact. It's just, isn't that interesting? The color of the year. I don't know which way yellow is going to go, although yellow has been fairly popular and a lot of people like it. And the fact that it is so flower friendly, there's many things available in yellow, I think it's going to have more impact than some other years. Like when we had emerald green, that was a tough one. We can have a lot of foliage, but there's not many true emerald green flowers. The green trick dianthus kind of followed that. Baronia picks up, not Baronia, Brunia. Oh, Leanne. Baronia is pink. Brunia is gray. And isn't that beautiful? It picks up that Pantone color so well. Adding it in at the base to unify the container up into the design, bringing another bit over. And then also how it's chosen, I think that everybody just looks at what's going on and then they share ideas. So that kind of gives you the answer with both. Now, there's other places that come out with other colors of the year. Pantone is the most well-known and the biggest, but everybody comes out with their color forecast of who they think it's going to be. The different magazines, the different paint companies, the furniture people. They can't wait to plan their products until the Pantone is announced. So they have to go out and guess on their own as well. They usually don't line up. So if you hate the Pantone one, open your eyes and look around for other trends and you might find one you like better.
Leanne, Lynn chimed in and said, do you remember when it was baby blue and pink?
Oh, that amethyst and sapphire and amethyst, I think it was. But yeah, the pink and blue, people really had emotional reactions to that one. A lot of people hated it because they're like, it's pink and blue. But the thing that kind of turned me, I didn't love it, I'll be honest, it wasn't my favorite. But the thing that made me appreciate it is if you looked at a sunset, it really was that pink and blue in the sky, a summertime sunset. And if you photograph that and then put it next to the Pantone color cards, almost a mirror image. And that's when I started appreciating it because of its blending with Mother Nature. But yeah, it wasn't one of my more favorites. Silver Sage, also picking up that gray color. Now when I was shopping, it's like, well, how do you know what's going to be gray? How am I going to do this? This guy is so tall, it's kind of bothering me, but I'm going to leave him up there because, you know, flowers never behave totally, and I don't want to change it because just like when things grow, they look different ways, the garden makes its own choices, and so I'm going to leave it alone. It's kind of there. I'll turn it so you can see from other sides and how it's all coming together. And it's almost like this guy is just turning his head and looking the other direction. What's over here? And not paying attention. And I could maybe twist him a little bit, but once he's in the foam, it pretty much stays put. So you can't really do too much with it. That's the one thing, you're kind of limited. But it still comes together pretty well and gives you that silver gray. Now when I went shopping, I told you I looked at the yellow. Then I pulled up silver because that was the other side of the colors. And I'm like, okay, what am I gonna get in gray? They didn't have a gray palette, but they had a silver. And that's where I found the Brunia, the Silver Sage, Dusty Miller, definitely goes along with that. And then I loved this, Kangaroo Paws. You're used to seeing them in more of the orange hue, but look at that with the gray, the kangaroo paw, and it gives great texture. It's a little bit of a blush, so it picks up that trend as well. Some Astrantia, Eucalyptus pods, and then gray bunny tails. Is that not just the cutest thing ever? Don't you love it? I mean, can you imagine? I need those. I've got to put those in here because they're just too perfect. I'm going to undo it so I can get some out nice and long. Well, I work on this. What have you guys got over there?
Natalie has a great question. She wants to know, when they say yellow, does that mean like a specific tint, tone, or shade of yellow?
Okay, depends on who is they. With Pantone, it is a very specific yellow. It's Pantone number, blah, 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 I don't remember. Somebody can maybe look that up and put it in there because there is a very specific Pantone number for that color, and it's called Illumination, which separates it out from other yellows. So yes, if you are looking at Pantone, it's a very specific yellow. If you have a customer that says they want yellow, chances are it can be a variety of different yellows. They're not necessarily set on illumination, but you want to chat with them and make sure. Now, if they're doing yellows, they might want a variety of yellows, and so you can mix and match. But if they have a wedding palette that they're working on and they're using a very deep mustardy yellow, and you showed up with illumination yellow, you'd be wrong, and they would be very unhappy. So you want to make sure you know what yellow they're talking about. If it's the Pantone yellow, it's bright, bright yellow. If it is a mustard yellow, it might be more like this carnation, where it's muted, almost antique-y, or it could be like the yarrow, very deep and intense. Remind me the name.
That is date palm berry.
So the date palm berry is yellow too, but it's certainly not illumination yellow. But isn't it beautiful? So if you were mixing and matching yellows, then you can do that easily. And that's what I did when I was ordering, as I mixed and matched so that I could have a little of this, a little bit of that. So talk to your customer, find out which they mean, so that you are comfortable that you're delivering the correct thing, so that you have a happy customer. Because nobody likes a customer that calls you up and says, well, that's not what I meant. And you're like, oh, shoot, I'm so sorry. And maybe a few other choice words. Okay. So now I'm coming up with the bunny tails through the center, just to add a little more height. And that helps counteract the daffodils that are going all different directions and doing their own thing. And plus, it's just too pretty. Now, when you think about roses, the gray is a tough one. But I found two on their site that were mixed in with that silver shopping page, and they worked beautifully. Now, one leans more to the lavender. It's definitely mauve. This is Amnesia. You're probably familiar with it. But it still has that grayed palette, so it blends in nicely with other grays. So Amnesia, I think, is going to be a popular rose going forward for people looking for that gray palette. The other one that they have is Menta, which Menta is a California-grown rose. And it has that very soft silvery beige hue. So it's kind of a silver beige with, again, a touch of blush. So it blends in so well to give you that gray palette. Now, the thing that's interesting about your gray roses, the Menta and the Amnesia, is depending on the time of year, the color will vary. So you want to be a little bit expressive when you talk to people. This time it's a very soft gray. Next time it might actually have more of the lavender showing. Another time it might have more of a yellowy showing. So a lot depends on how much sunlight and temperature is going on, because it does change quite a bit. But either way, they're still beautiful. You just want to make sure they understand that Mother Nature is in charge, and Mother Nature may not give you the exact color that you see at that point, but it still works great with that ultimate gray and illumination color palette. I think you'll see some of this in the classroom. We'll have to have some grays and yellows in there to stay on trend. I haven't placed those orders yet, but I will. I'll get that done. I've started ordering, but not all of it. So, what else?
Well, let's do some shout outs to some tulips I see out there over here on Facebook. I have Roxy and Wayne, Scott, Janet, Cam, Andrea, Denise, Jim, both Sharons, Catherine, Aaron, Annie, the Twisted Tulip, Debbie, Laura, Donna, and Diana.
Welcome. I'm glad you're here. If you haven't introduced yourself yet, do so. Make sure everybody knows you're here, where you're from, so that you get to know each other. Start collaborating together. One of the things that I absolutely love is our Tulip Tribe Facebook group, because I see how much interaction and encouragement and sharing is going on there. And it just warms my heart. Now, to be part of that group, you do have to be an official Tulip Tribe member, which is people who have taken classes from us, so graduates, people who are currently in school, students, and also members of the Flower Lovers Club. That makes up our official tribe. And then if you fit that qualification, you can go into the private Facebook group, which is under Tulip Tribe. And I find it's a wonderful place to share arrangements and ask comments to find out, how can I improve this, and get opinions from others in a very, very, very positive way. And then also to share your successes so that you have a place to brag a little bit where people will understand just how grand it is that you have done whatever it is you did. And it makes me so happy to see how everybody supports everyone. No negativity allowed in our tribe. We have wonderful people in our tribe. Carolyn.
Well, I'd like to give a shout out to our Tulip Tribe on YouTube. We have Elizabeth, Julie, Renee, Peter, Julia, Canthy, Heidi, Rose, I can't read my own writing, I apologize. Fanny, I think I wrote. Dee, Graciela, Debbie, Elaine, Valerie, Tess, Isabel, Yvette, Valerie, Michael, Deborah, her first time, Kelly, and Jean.
Wonderful. It could have been Fanny because we have a Fanny that's part of our Tulip Tribe. I know that, so that could be the appropriate name.
Well, Leanne, Karen has a really great question, although some on Facebook did respond to her, but she wants to know, what do you think would be the best way to define or agree with an exact color when you're talking with the customer? She had that issue before. So for example, different versions of Sunshine Yellow.
That's a great question. And it's something that, especially for wedding and event florists, is vitally important. And a couple of things that I have done over the years that have worked for me, that might work for you. If they can bring you a swatch of fabric, fabulous. But that's not always possible. Too many times they can't come up with a swatch of fabric. A photograph doesn't do it because photos lie. They never are truly what you're looking at. So then, for a long period of time, I would tell them to go to a fabric store and buy a spool of thread in the exact color they want. Because thread comes in every color in the rainbow and so many variations of everything. Sometimes they bring me embroidery floss because that was what they found, or sometimes they bring me a button. I really didn't care what they brought as long as it was a physical, tangible thing. And sending them to the fabric store to buy thread worked really, really well. Now where some stores are not open and that's more difficult, a little bit more of a challenge, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. So you might send them to a hardware store because hardware stores are considered to be essential businesses, so they've stayed open, and they can buy, or not necessarily buy, but get a paint chip in the appropriate color. Because again, paint comes in so many variations of every single hue. So getting a paint chip of whatever color works grand. Then other times I actually used ribbon swatches, but then it becomes my problem to find the right ribbon and to say, is this it, is this it? I found it better to send them on their homework and have them bring it to me. Where the problem comes in is if you're doing a remote wedding where you're not actually ever seeing the person, and maybe they live in a totally different town and are flying in to get married, and you've got to do all of your work over the phone and email and texting back and forth. That gets a little more challenging, and so that's where I would say try to get the Pantone color number. Have them get the exact color number of Pantone, and that way you can be more precise.
Well, I love Scott's suggestion because he uses food as a reference. Like, is it a butter yellow, a lemon yellow, mustard yellow, and so on?
That's excellent. And there was a period of time where food was the color signifier. And so it was watermelon pink, blackberry, aubergine, eggplant, all of that. And everything was done by foodstuffs, and so people got trained into that. Then we went through a period of time where the colors were designated by nature. It was hoot owl gray, porpoise gray, evergreen bark, all these different things, and it was all natural. So I think food is more understood than some nature things, because not everybody knows what color a hoot owl is or what color a porpoise is.
I don't even know what a porpoise is.
It's an animal.
Oh.
It lives in the ocean. So with the grays, one thing that I did here that I didn't talk about is I added in some eucalyptus, and I just grabbed a few varieties here. I used the silver dollar variety, but it could be spiral. I think with gray being on trend as a Pantone color, you're going to see more and more eucalyptus, which we've had eucalyptus for a very long time. That's nothing new, but I think you're going to see more of it. And it works well with the color palette, so that makes me happy. It's long lasting, that makes me happy. All those things. Now adding in some of the mustardy yellow to go with the Catalina with the vivid yellow, and contrasting it with the Dusty Miller and the eucalyptus to bring in the gray, coming around to the back so that I don't do it one-sided. I keep it kind of going here so you can see. There's the back side, and then adding in another rose coming up a little higher. There we go. Back to the front for you. And maybe one more.
Yeah, we have a quite international crowd over here on Facebook too. We have over here people tuning in from Virginia, a big handful of locals here from Oregon, Alaska, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Long Beach, Panama, Delaware, Chicago, Australia, Canada, South Africa, Sri Lanka, Texas, New Zealand, Chile, UK, and southern France.
How grand! Oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled to have you join us. Thanks for being here. Isn't it fun? So now I asked you yay or nay on the gray and yellow. Let's circle back. Are you starting to like it? Are you hating it? Is it growing on you? Have you changed any of your opinions as you look at the flowers? Because that can go a little bit to sway you once you see it done in different things. Now, more bunny tails, aren't they just too fun? I just love them. This one in a true burnt yellow, that mustardy hue. And so it's certainly not the illumination yellow, but I liked it the way it just added a bit of contrast to the design, picks up some of the darker of the container. I'm going to add it in just up in the top so that it's nice and tall. Don't need it to be quite that long. Turn it down a little bit. And then I find it easier to go ahead and tape it when I'm going to put that many stems in at once, because it doesn't then start splaying out and make you crazy. This makes it stay together so that it goes in cleanly and stays put.
Well, Jean Marie says that you are turning her into a yellow and gray believer.
I love it. I think the biggest thing is to find a flower that you like in that palette, be it a rose, be it a daffodil or whatever, but pick a flower that you like and then build from there. Because if you start from scratch, sometimes it just doesn't quite get you. You're just kind of like, oh, I just don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not a yellow lover. What am I going to do? And then all of a sudden you start working with it and you think, oh, well, that's what I'm going to do. I kind of like that. This was one that came in, the Symbolism, which I don't think of it as being illumination, but yet when you look at some of the petals, there's a bit of an illumination feel to it. And I think it picks up the deeper hue as well as the lighter. So I'm going to go ahead and set this in, but I need a water tube for it because it's not long enough to reach the water. So getting a tube and then setting it in.
Leanne, Evelyn has a great comment about the Pantone of the year, and I could not agree more. She says that she thinks it perfectly symbolizes life right now. The gray of all the external stuff that is going on, and the yellow optimism and creativity that helps us rise above it.
It's very true, and I believe that that's part of the reason that they chose it, because that gray of life, as we're stuck at home. I know that students have told me that their flower school has been the saving grace because it brought brightness into their life when things seemed really, really, really gray, and they felt hopeless in some respects, and that flower school gave them the light that they needed to have hope. And I get it. I totally get it. There are days that I get up and I just feel gray and I feel lethargic, and I'm like, what can I possibly do? And I'll be honest, I had quit running, I had quit doing things because it was gray. I wasn't yellow. And I made a commitment to myself that I gotta get out of this funk. I can't be gray. This is not acceptable. Now, I will say I'm not totally over it. I still have my moments. Needless to say, we all have our moments. But I'm feeling a little more yellow, a little bit brighter, a little bit happier. Although I had to laugh. I had this gray dress that I bought when I was feeling gray. It's my only gray item in my whole closet. And I thought, how appropriate for today. And ironically, I bought it in my gray period. But then by adding silver, it brightened it, made it seem a little happier, which makes me wonder. And I went back through jewelry. I think silver is going to come back in style, more so than gold, just simply because of the gray. Silver works so well. So I think you're going to see a little surge in the silver that goes along with this. Now merging, you talked about the different types of yellows, merging that mustard yellow to the really deep yellow to the illumination yellow, and then softening it all with gray to tone it down, because gray, any color with gray is a tone. Remember your flower school. So it all works in there. Totally fine. You know, another thing that I think is going to happen besides the move to silver and that growth is I think you're going to start seeing more lemons. So I was going through my closet and I found my scarf that is lemons. I think you're going to see more lemons coming back just because of the yellow. And I mean, it might not be a scarf that has lemons on it, but lemons in your arrangements, lemons in eating. I just think that we'll start seeing more lemons in the grocery store because that illumination yellow just kind of pairs with it so well. Kind of an interesting thought. It'll be interesting as we go through this year if we see this, if it really does turn into lemons and silver, and if it takes hold. So I'm going to set this one aside and gather some more. Will you guys talk amongst yourselves and tell me what's going on?
Well, I have a question in regards to our courses. We have someone asking when they sign up for our courses, they want to know if the videos are only available for a limited time or do they have lifetime access?
With the online courses, all of them, the professional certification basic floral design, professional certification advanced floral design, and then all the workshops, the wedding flower boot camp, floral design fundamentals. Oh, and the new ones. Oh my gosh, I always forget the new ones from the Wedding Floral Specialist program with the bouquets to carry and flowers to wear. You have lifetime access. When you sign up, you have 1 year of teacher support. So we put that in your student portfolio. We set it in that, okay, 1 year, there's your teacher support. But when that year is up, although the teacher support ends and you need to have your certificate done, you still have access to all the information. You can go back through your portfolio, look at the work that you did, see if you've changed, see how you evolved, which is one of the great joys when you do your basic and your advanced. When you get to the advanced and you do your final submission, to go back to your basic and look what you submitted at the very first time and compare how much you've grown or bloomed and how your talents have gone on. Pretty fabulous. Don't you love this container? The face, it's not waterproof, so it has a liner in here. And I thought, rather than focus on the yellow, that this would be really fun to focus on the gray and the moodiness of that side of the palette. So rather than starting with a lot of yellow, I'm going to go back to the gray portion first. I'm going to work on this side of my studio. And if you get a chance, some point after we're done, go online, look at florabundance.com and just type in, florabundance.com, shop by color, and choose gray, actually silver, and look at what's there. Then choose the yellow. Look at what's there. That too may help you kind of decide you like this color palette, because you see how much there is to choose from in that palette. It's amazing to me. I was surprised at just how much grand product came available when you type in silver, because I thought that would be my challenging one, and it wasn't challenging at all. It was abundant, which is really kind of fabulous to know. But do take a look at that. It's just kind of, I'm glad they set it up with a shop by color. At first I thought, really, why would you do that? Don't you just shop by variety or season? And I thought, no, shopping by color makes the most sense. So.
All right, Leanne, a question for the tribe from Tabitha. What does everyone think a good substitution for silver dollar eucalyptus would be?
Okay, a substitution for silver dollar eucalyptus, because all the eucalyptus does go in and out of season periodically.
Well, she's in Hawaii,
which does make it a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. Now, Hawaii has its own challenges because of their restrictions through agricultural products. But Alaska, Montana, Wyoming, all your smaller communities where it's a little more difficult, you've got a challenge. The good news is, every single one of you, as long as it's within the United States, all those little tiny communities, Florabundance can ship to you. So it gets to your door via FedEx and it just comes directly to you, even if you're in the middle of nowhere. I know I used to go to Montana every single Christmas, New Year's period. That was our winter break. We'd spend Christmas with my family, and then we'd get on a train. Love the train. We get on a train and we go to the middle of Glacier Park. So it's the middle of nowhere in Montana. And I always had flowers shipped in so that we would have flowers on New Year's, because it's very important to me to have fresh flowers on New Year's Day, because that's starts the year off correctly. But even in the middle of a snowstorm with mountains of snow in Glacier Park, a FedEx driver can show up with flowers. Florabundance has saved me so many times there, so I can tell you, it doesn't matter where you are, they can get it to you. Well, I poke flowers. Now this is that Menta, which was so beautiful, and you see how it blends with the silver gray. Oh, too grand.
Leanne, before you get farther into that design, are you able to lift the liner out? We have people asking how you lined it.
No, I can't, but it is just a plastic liner. The regular, like a plant saucer, plastic clear liner, just set down in. It was a nice oval hole. It actually is a nice one to line. It didn't have any trickiness to it. So let me see, I'll try here. We'll see what happens.
Whoops.
Okay, I can get it out. I can do this. Okay, so it's just a liner like that. Okay, so it's a clear liner, and it just fits right in. And then I used Midnight Foam because that way it kind of went with the black space, so I felt like I could make sure it didn't show. And then I didn't tape it because I was doing it for a camera and no one would know that I didn't tape it. Well, now you know I didn't tape it. But it's in there pretty secure, so it might not be a problem, but maybe if I was selling it, I would tape it. So, Carolyn, what have you got?
I have a couple great questions from, what's that? They scrolled past me.
Oh,
They're
no.
typing fast here. Where'd they go? Michael and Eva. They're similar and probably have a similar answer. So Eva is asking, is there something that says what is the most pleasing to the eye? And then Michael is curious, is there a third color that would pair nicely with the yellow and silver?
Excellent questions on both of those. With this yellow and silver, the key to think about is the silver is not a color. It's a combination of black and white, or the gray is not a color. It's a combination of black and white. So it's a neutral, it doesn't count. So in reality, when you make an arrangement, like something like this with yellow, it is nothing more than a monochromatic design because it's yellow. Tints, tones, and shades of one color creates a monochromatic design, and the gray doesn't count because it's not a color, and the green doesn't count, green doesn't count because it's the backdrop. So since it's monochromatic, yellow, then you would use your color wheel. So basic floral design students, think about your color wheel, and you could do a complement going to the violet, or you could do a triad with yellow, blue, and red, or you could do analogous with yellows over to oranges or yellows over to greens, and then add in your gray, and it works. So the color harmony with the yellow and gray is wide open to do all kinds of different things. Then the other question was, I forgot already, I got sidetracked.
What's pleasing to the eye, which relates to the...
And there you go to the psychology of color. And there was a period of my time in my life where I was studying color like mad. And pleasing to the eye depends on so many things. So you cannot say this is going to be pleasing to the eye to everybody, because the choice of that varies whether you're male or female, whether you're rich or poor, whether you're young or old, and geographically where you live. Also temperature-wise, are you in a cold environment or a hot environment? All of those factors affect whether or not it's pleasing to the eye. And so if you study the psychology of color, all of a sudden you realize how much of a science it really is, that you can't just say, oh, the Pantone color of the year, this is going to be the popular one. Well, it might be popular, but it doesn't mean it's going to be the most favorite color of all for everybody, because each of us will have a different response to it. And some of it is learned responses. I mean, we're taught from little kids that pink is a girl color. Is that really true? No, but that's culturally what we have been taught. So psychologically it will affect whether you like a color or not. And then seasonally that can be affected. Then other things have an actual physical response, which that's what's very fascinating. So go back to pink. Culturally, psychologically, we've been trained that pink is a girl color, but physically, pink is a calming color. It causes your brain to actually secrete a chemical called norepinephrine, and norepinephrine is a calming chemical. And so surrounding yourself with pink is supposed to be calming. Now, whether that's true or not for you, can vary depending on your age, your sex, your income, your environment. But it's kind of fascinating. So that's my very, very, very long answer. And I would encourage you, if you love color like I do, if it makes you go kind of goose pimply when you even think about it, go to the library or the bookstore or go online and Google it. You know, going to the library and the bookstore is kind of old school. I'm saying my age. But go online and Google color and you'll find so much fantastic information and a lot of garbage. So you have to kind of sort through. But there's so much fun stuff to learn. I know I had written a huge paper on the psychology of color where it went through, you know, who picked this color, who picked that color, and if you picked this color, what did it mean? And oh, it was just too much fun. But anyway, I digress.
Man, Barbara says real men like pink and quiche.
I love it. Oh my gosh, so true. Don't let society change who you are.
And Leanne, someone told me a long time ago that actually pink was for boys and blue was for girls.
Okay. And why was there reasoning on
Because
that?
pink is calming and boys are a little bit more, you know.
Ah, okay.
But I don't know if that's true or not. But someone had told me that once.
It's kind of an odd statement about yellow, which is going to be on trend because it's the Pantone color of the year. But if you study psychology, the people who choose a certain color most often as their favorite, when it comes to yellow, it's most often chosen as a favorite by people with a disorder of, think of it, Leanne. It's a mental disorder and it's a chemical imbalance. Schizophrenics, they oftentimes will choose the yellow. And if they're on their medication and such where their balance is set back, they don't choose it. Isn't that fascinating? Kind of a strange little thing to share with you. So, what do you think of the Menta rose? Do you like the Menta in there? I do. I like it. But you know what's kind of interesting? I'm going to go ahead and add the Amnesia as well. The Amnesia came in from Garden Roses Direct, which is a sister company to Floral Abundance. But they came in from gardenrosesdirect.com. But look what happens when I add that contrast. Isn't that much better?
Pretty.
Oh, I love that in there. It makes me happy. So we've got a few minutes. Questions about color, comments, statements. If you want to share whether or not you like yellow and gray anymore, you can. And questions that you guys have or comments already. What's happening out there?
Well, my question to the tribe and to Leanne, what are we going to name our beautiful friend?
I know we don't have a name for her, but you know what? As I look at it, it looks like she has little puppy dog ears. I think we have to change that. Oh my gosh, we can't have puppy dog ears. So this has to kind of tuck back under. There we go. Now she just has a little swoop. I can live with that. So what's our name? Come on, people.
And then do you have any suggestions or tips for Wayne? He just found out that he's colorblind in the reds and greens just recently. Any idea on how to...
Interesting. Well, if it's very specific, that's helpful because that means that most things you can be able to see color well. But it's not totally debilitating. One of my favorite designers, Pim Vandenacker, he's from Delft. He's 100% colorblind. And he's an amazing floral artist. So it can be done, and it could be that you have to have someone works with you that helps pick their flowers, and then you make the design. Or it could be you are able to just kind of counteract it and get past it without any problem. So I tucked in just a tiny bit of yellow so that I picked up that combo of ultimate gray and illumination, but in the reverse. So before we did more of the yellow and touches of gray, this time I did gray touches of yellow, and you can see how it all just blends together. And then by combining the roses, getting it moved over to that little mauve blush look is kind of fun too. So let me move that.
Uh-oh, Rachel says yellow's her favorite color. Maybe she needs to see a doctor.
I love it. I don't think so. I think you're okay. But yeah, I know. It's like, oh, should I have told you that? But I find the science of color to be so fascinating. And for those of you thinking about going into business and running your store and making sure that what you sell to the customers does sell and makes them happy, when the customer comes to buy flowers, their number one deciding factor is color, more than anything else. But then when you think about it, it's that way with everything. When you go to buy clothes, you don't go in and say, I need a $35 dress, or I need a $200 dress. You go in and you say, I want a black dress. Or when you're going through the racks, you don't look at every single dress. You look at the ones that have a color that capture your eye. And you go, ooh, let's look at this one. And then you flip through. When you buy towels, first you go by color, then you touch them to see which one feels the best. Or you pick the kind that feels the best, then you pick the color. But color decides everything. So if you are thinking about being in business, start studying color. It makes a difference. I started today with just this little guy sitting on the table. Marisa put that together for us to look at. And I thought it was a perfect example of yellow and gray with just that soft touch. Just a couple bunny tails, a little bit of magnolia, a little bit of dusty miller, single cymbidium. Perfection of tearing the two colors and representing it well. So one more piece. I'm going to move things around. We've got about 2 minutes left.
Well, I only have a few suggestions for the name. Do you have any, Carolyn?
Well, we had Flora, and then Michael says Pantonica, but just just for today.
Pantonica. You know, that actually makes sense today. And Pantonica is not a bad name because with it being black, the absence of color, then
We could use her
it
all
be
the
used
time.
for anything. Maybe she comes back for our annual Pantone color announcement and we see how she looks and everything. Oh, I have to remember that for next year. Oh my goodness.
The other few I have, okay, so I have one here that just came in. Goddess Hera, Ambrosia. I got Minerva, Mini Pearl, and this is my favorite one, Betty White.
I love it. Okay. So we've got Betty White, Minerva, Pantonica.
Oh.
So many choices. So now, my question to you. As you look at the variations of illumination and gray, this one is probably purest with the interpretation with the bright yellow and then the muted gray. So this would give you your illumination and ultimate gray. This one gives you the variations of yellow from the very darkest to the brightest and then the gray. Then focusing here on the grays and just bringing in a bit of the deep, deep yellow, but still following in that same format. And then the simplicity of just a bloom accented with gray. What do you think would sell in your world? What do you think your customer would like? Anything? None of them? How do you see it go? Next week, we'll have teacher Michelle on camera. She's going to be previewing and being our first spotlight on Valentine's Day, the big flowering holiday of the world. Valentine's Day is the busiest single day, period. And so we are doing a preview of it with hints for business management, organization, techniques for getting ready, and creative touches with design. So be sure to join us next week. If you know somebody with a store or planning to do Valentine's orders, it's a must attend, can't miss segment because it's such a busy day and it'll be filled with hints. I doubt we'll have much yellow because that's not a true Valentine color, although we may have some because Valentine's is changing throughout the world. But go ahead, type in what your thoughts are. Add names for our lovely head. And then I'll see you all next week when we gather at 3 o'clock Wednesday for Valentine's with Michelle. Until then, be sure to take time for you. Fill your life with color. Fill your life with beauty. If you're in flower school, get your assignments done and send them in. And I'll see those of you that are joining me for class next week on Monday. And I'll see all of you next Wednesday. Bye for now.